Hi folks. Hey, I'm back in the studio again, working on a funny project, for me anyway. Chris wanted a pestle and mortar in the kitchen to grind herbs and to grind the vitamins we give the dogs. And we didn't have one, so I decided to challenge myself and make them. Now, I did some prototypes a few months ago, and they were okay. But there were a couple of problems, and I figured out how to solve those problems. Let me take you through the steps. So I threw a couple dozen heavy-duty bowls yesterday afternoon. And these are made with 1 pound 4 ounces of clay. I trimmed one of them so far, the rest need trimming now. But what I've done is I trimmed with a slightly textured ribbed foot on it, because I discovered in the house I like to hold the mortar in my hand, and so I provide a little bit of a handle, aka trimmed foot, on the mortar. So these take a long time to dry. They are heavy, 1 pound 4 ounces of clay, but I've been told make them very sturdy because they're going to get quite a bit of abuse. Okay. Next thing I did late yesterday afternoon was I threw these pestles. Now I threw them off the hump. You can do it individually or off the hump. They would probably be about 4 or 5 ounces of clay, not very much clay. But what I did is I threw them off the top of a lump of clay. I threw a hollow cylinder, closed it off, and then put some shape into it. Cut it off as evenly as I could with a wire, and at this point I take a little bit of weight off of it just by cutting that out of there. Okay, so my dilemma in the past was if I threw this rounded off of a hump, it would be cut flat. How do you get it rounded? I couldn't trim it because I can't make a chuck that's going to hold this thing efficiently. So what I discovered is create this piece as a separate piece. Let me show you what I mean. So over here I made these little bisque fired bowls. They're nothing fancy, but they all have a very smooth curve in them. I think I have about half a dozen of them, and as you use them, they get damp, so you have to move on to the next one until the first one dries out. So, let me show you my process for creating the rounded end, like this, on the ends of my pestle. So, these were thrown, as I said earlier, off of a hump, hollow, a little bit rough where they're cut off, but I can remove that. Sometimes they're a little thick-walled at this point, and I trim that away. So I start with a thin slab of clay. Once I get that cut and separated from its lump of clay, I'm searching for one of these cookie cutters that's pretty much the diameter of this, and this is too small. So next size up. That's better. So let's cut the circle. Now we've got to get this rounded to put on the end of that, and that's where these little simple bowls come in. So I'm going to just carefully and slowly press this little piece of clay into the mold. stretch it out a little bit because it lost a bit of diameter when it dropped down into the mold. So I have to stretch it out just a little bit more. And give it a test. A little bit more. So I'm getting the two diameters as equal as I can. Okay, let's wet this edge. I'm going to score just the very edge of it. Center it and press. Connecting the two. So that's the idea. Now, the finishing of it, I'm going to press it a little bit more and try and stretch that slab. That's not too bad. So this roughness I'm going to deal with when it's leather hard. I'll probably just smooth it with my thumb first and then a little bit of sponge and soften that edge. But for me, it was a solution to making that end of the pestle. Hope that makes sense, and give it a try. They're actually very useful things to have in the kitchen, and they sell pretty well. Anyway, I hope you found this interesting, or at least as interesting as I found figuring it out. See you next time. Thanks for watching.